Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Opinion Machine, the show where we talk about all things gaming. My name is Killjoy, and today we're going to take a look, as you can see on screen, at the Starcraft 2 Balance Update 2019 that's coming later in the year, after Blizzcon. If you haven't heard or haven't seen anything about this yet, you'll know that there's some changes in this that people aren't happy with and don't feel like they're really fixing the problems with Starcraft. Now, I want to come at this as somebody, as a viewer, more so than a player, because I'm fairly casual with the game. I'm probably about Gold League, or was at one point. I'm not higher than that. And I want to go over these changes and look at these changes and discuss it with people. I'm not necessarily going to read all the fluff text that Blizzard has put in this. Instead, I just want to go give you my opinions on it, and you know, as somebody who's been watching a lot of Starcraft 2, especially recently, it's becoming quite stale. There's a lot of Zerg at the moment in the meta. The Zerg late game is quite powerful. They have a lot of powerful tools, and yeah, it's just getting boring to watch. So, but basically, all you need to know about this update is that they're looking at maybe making gating units full power off and adding upgrades. So we'll get into it. So Terran, so the Hellion Hellbat, Infernal Pre-Igniter research cost decreased from 150 to 100. I don't really know how much this is going to adjust the game, but it's cool. I mean, making it, that's like a straight up, as 100 overall resources you don't have to put into this. Blue Flame, I think, is a really powerful upgrade anyway, because you do like, is it plus, I don't know, you do like 40 damage or something versus the light. You run into someone's mineral line and you pretty much destroy all of their workers, so it's pretty cool. I do like this change. It's probably a good thing they don't change that you can get it quicker, because boy, is that a powerful upgrade, really, in what it does. But I mean, I like going for this upgrade anyway. I'm just glad it costs less now. As a Terran player, it's like cool. But they're basically trying to make so that when you go for Hellions, you get it. You can get it easier, because you know that's a big investment to spend on that. So I don't know how big this will be, but a fairly cool upgrade anyway. Thor, this is one of the interesting ones that people seem to be talking about. The high impact payload damage, which is the big guns, not the splash damage, is decreased 40 plus 15 versus massive to 25 plus 10 versus massive, but its weapon cooldown is decreased, so it's not 1.7 seconds or 1.7 anymore. It's now 0.9, which means what? That's almost half. So it should be firing a lot quicker. This is an interesting change. I don't know how much. It'll be interesting to see this happen, because already they sort of stand there and they fire and they hit. They've got fairly big range with those back guns, so hopefully this means it will shred flying units quicker. But I've also seen some players discuss that actually the burst damage is too low now, and that it'll be too easy to escape by taking less damage potentially, and also the fact that Queens can heal like Broodlords, because this is primarily good against Broodlords. That's why you get high impact payload. Broodlords and Tempest, I think, is what you get like this. This is something I need to try and go on and have a mess around, because I have played a little around with a couple of these, but nothing huge. But interesting to see, at least, like, as a viewer, I want to see more stuff like this, where not so much this particular change, but I want to see things like the Thor and other units implemented in a way where they can counter, or at least be more effective against some of this late game Zerg. And late game Protoss versus Terran and late game Zerg versus Protoss can be quite long. I will say there are two changes in this that I've been asking for a while, just to see engagements have to encounter rather than being so far away. So, you know, we'll get onto those. But yeah, I need to watch this and look at this. Hopefully it helps, but if not, maybe keep this and maybe put this up again to like 30 plus 10. I don't know. Maybe give it a bit more oomph. Viking health increased. The idea behind this is so that you can tank at least one more volley of shots, or at least one or two more volley of shots from units like Corruptors and things like that, and Stalkers and whatnot, and be able to tank it I feel like the Vikings is an interesting unit. I actually really like the Viking design. I wish grounded Vikings were used more, and I really like them. I think they're really good against like destroying mechanical stuff. It's a lot of fun. But hopefully this helps. I don't know how much this health increase is really going to benefit the Viking. Like, sometimes I wish it just like maybe plus 1 more damage. Maybe it just had some extra tweaks, and maybe this will help, and maybe it will allow it to get off more volleys and kill things, but we'll see. It definitely feels like a paper plane a lot of the time, the Viking, which is unfortunate because it's, you know, it's not meant to be a battle cruiser kind of health, but it's also one of your more beastie units you have, and it does a fair amount of damage. So yeah, looking forward to seeing if this will actually help against bigger armies. This is an interesting one. So rapid reignition system upgrade, move from the starport and to the fusion core. So sorry, move from the tech lab to the fusion core. What this means is that you don't have to go starport, reactor, and then starport, tech lab to get this upgrade for medevacs. You now go reactor, starport, and then you build a fusion core, and you can get the upgrade there, which means you can get that upgrade and start using it in a much smoother curve, much more efficient. In addition to reducing the medevac's ignite afterburners cooldown by 5 seconds, this upgrade will also increase the medevac's base movement speed from 3.5 to 4.13. This upgrade will not affect the movement speed during ignite afterburners. Now, I actually tested this out, and I didn't think there was a big difference between this and this. I mean, it was faster, but I don't know how beneficial that is. Maybe it'll make getting in and out of places with including this 5-second cooldown, you know, decrease on your ignite reignition, a rapid reignition system, so the afterburners will be more efficient and you can get out quicker and things like that. But honestly, it didn't seem that big. Maybe it will have a bigger role when the patch comes in, and it'll be really interesting to see people utilize it. But remember, as somebody who's watching the game, it's not like Banshee speed. If you watch a Banshee and then you see a Banshee with hyperflight rotors, you will see a significant difference. With this upgrade, if you really wanted to make it like significant, you would do 3.5 to 4.5, and you would see a significant upgrade. Now I know they're not going to do that because that would make medevacs really, like, they're much faster than a lot of things, be able to maneuver a lot of things. But I really don't think this is that big of a deal. Maybe it is, again, a bit of a casual, but I don't think this is a huge deal, to be honest. So, but yeah, we'll see how that one goes. Liberator. Now here's not this particular upgrade, but the other one that you're going to see, this nerf, is what I've been saying for a while. So advanced ballistics, which is the upgrade that gives them +4 range, but now +3, move to from this tech lab to the fusion core. So now getting the fusion core again, you go for the reactor, you can then get out your liberators, and then you can just go into the fusion core without having to build another starport and start pumping out your liberators, which is cool. I tried this out and it's actually pretty smooth. Advanced ballistics upgrade now increases the range of liberators by 3, down from 4. So the reason why I wanted this change, and I want to see this in increments rather than bigger changes, yeah, like one increment rather than bigger changes, because I've been saying for a while, especially Protoss and versus Terran, if you reduce the range of the Liberator by 1 and you reduce the range of the Tempest by 1, what you're doing is forcing the units to be just a little bit closer, which means Stalkers can get in a bit easier on the Liberators if you don't siege them up properly or you leave them open. They're still going to take damage, but they've got a bit of an easier way, just enough, just a little bit more maneuverability. Whereas you'll see the Tempest got nerfed as well by 1, which will allow Vikings and other units to get on them a little bit more. So there's not this just bigger gap. So yeah, I actually like this change. I think this is a good change. It's still got a decent range. It's still got a massive wide area to shoot in. So I'm totally fine with this. Raven. Interference Matrix, which is basically the move that shuts down a unit's ability. Cost increased from 50 to 75 energy. Interference Matrix now duration increased from 8 seconds to 11 seconds. This is a cool change because when you watch TVT, you will see Ravens come in, fire off either anti-armor, but generally they'll do Interference Matrix and they will knock out all the tanks that are your main units in that composition, and then you die because all your tanks have got interference matrix, or they do it on the opposition's Raven to shut that down and then shut down some of the tanks. This means you can only do it twice now rather than 4 times, I believe it was. And then this means that, yes, okay, it costs more, but you're locking that unit out for longer. So this is a good change. They've also increasing the Raven movement speed to the same. Is that the same as the medevac when the upgrade? Yes, it is. Except this is an even smaller change. I actually didn't test this. I forgot to test this. That is going to feel quite minor. Maybe it won't when you're actually trying to control the army. You'll probably feel a bit more. You'd be more aware of it because it'd be like, oh, Raven's obviously flying ahead and you're trying to stop them from doing it. I really like the Raven as a unit. I just wish that, like, because to me it feels like one of the most balanced spellcasters, in the sense that it has, you have a move that reduces armor, you have a move that does damage, and you have a move that locks down a unit, essentially. None of those overlap, and I think that's what makes it really, really cool. I love the Raven as a unit. I'm really bad with it, but I really like it. So yeah, cool. I mean, if this is going to be used for, they say, harassment and clearing creep, great idea. All for it. It's an expensive choice, but oh, it's a battlecruiser. Now, there's 2 changes here, and they do specifically say that they're looking at potentially one of these and not both of them. But, okay, tactical jump now stuns and puts the battlecruiser into a 1-second vulnerability phase before it teleports. I actually really hate this. I'm not a fan of this because what you're doing there, and especially with changes to the some of the other units, you're going to put the battlecruiser in a place where you try to harass her. Yes, it's annoying when it teleports out, and I understand that it needs that, but I would do this after it teleports, so that I mean, I think once they teleport, they're phasing for a bit, but like, make that phase a little bit longer or something, so they're out of the fight a bit more. I think doing this, they're just going to get wrecked, and no one's going to use them because they're just going to be like, oh, well, I've got to be careful with my teleporting. I still think tactical jump should be an upgrade to lock that power behind it, because it means even when you get that first battlecruiser out, you're either going to wait around till tactical jump's done, or you're going to send the first battlecruiser in, and there's a good chance that, you know, you're going to lose it because, you know, you don't have the ability to teleport out whenever you want. So this change I don't like at all. As somebody who likes battlecruisers and just like see their use, this is not. It might end up not being a big deal at all, but I just don't like the idea of basically stunning your own unit like recall. It's kind of like, so we'll see. At least maybe not 1 second. I put it down to 0.5 or something. But tactical jump cooldown increased from 71 seconds to 86. So yeah, it's going to either be this change or this change. They're both implemented at the moment. That's quite a long cooldown, but I think necessary. I would much rather this than this. I think that's too much. But I think tactical jump definitely needs to be locked behind a upgrade, or like Yamato is, or yeah, this is implemented so that the tactical jump isn't as abusable, if you like. Now here's a change that I dislike only because I hate the idea. This is so. Yamato Cannon will no longer cancel itself if a target enters a transport or becomes cloaked, burrowed. Instead, the Yamato Cannon will miss any ability will go on cooldown. The reason why I don't like these changes, and it's the same with the Widow Mine, and these you only see this at high games, and like this isn't the sort of thing I could do, so this will never affect me probably. But I really don't like it when a Widow Mine fires and then somebody blinks and the Widow Mine hits, because what you've essentially done there, in the same with the Yamato Cannon, is these units have a very specific use. Yamato Cannon is designed, or Yamato Cannon if you want to pronounce it, but I call it Yamato, is designed to fire and do a certain amount of damage. 240 I think is what it currently at. That's the thing about the capital ship for the Terran. It has this big laser gun that can just blast and do burst damage. Now, same thing with the Widow Mine. The Widow Mine is a burst damage unit. It fires at the mine, hits, bang, kills the thing and does splashes. When you do this sort of thing against the Widow Mine has then got its cooldown, and which means that unit is completely useless. Like, it's not functioned as it should be, and I really hate the fact that that is the case. I feel like it should have a reduced cooldown to make up for the fact that the Widow Mine didn't hit anything. Yes, this is very much a high level thing. This has probably never happened when I do it, but I hate seeing it. It's really disappointing because Widow Mines have a very specific use, and you should be, you know, they're either going to do really, really well or really badly, depending on whether you've got an observer or, you know, an overseer or a raven. And the same with this, like the idea that you fire Yamato and then it goes on cooldown, and it's already on a long cooldown, so you've just wasted your big shot that you may have needed, and I just don't like this kind of change. Again, this is the sort of thing I can see being implemented, and that's it. Like, they won't bother to change this, but we'll see. I don't like it, but you know. So you got this mule change here. This is basically saying that when the mule goes back and forth, it won't dig some of the minerals up and then destroy itself on the way back, losing those minerals. Useful quality life, and then mules will always attempt to spawn on the side of the minerals nearest to your command center. So yeah, quality of life change, lovely and useful, perfect. Nothing to complain about there. Okay, Zerg. So here we go, the Infestor. So we're on the Zerg stuff. This is where it gets a bit weird. So Infested Terran, energy cost increased from 25 to 50. So okay, they now cost more to use. Fine. Terran health increased 50 to 75. Health increased from 70. The egg health increased from 70 to 75. Rifle damage, so that's their ground attack, increased from 6 to 12. That's more than a Marine. That's like even what's an upgraded Marine? 9. Terran rocket damage increased from 14 to 24, so that's the air attack. It now gets +2 ranged weapon upgrade, up from +1. And then rocket period decrease, so it fires faster. It's very good against air units. The problem with the Infestor right now is the Infestor and the Viper have some of the best spells in the game, and they make it really boring to watch, because the Infestor's always been kind of an issue, but things have gone back and forth over the years that have made them, you know, be powerful, not as powerful, so on and so forth. I don't necessarily know if the Infested Terran was the issue from watching it. I've always thought Fungal was the problem, and I think that Fungal personally should be changed so that it either stuns or it does damage, but not both. Because in its current state, it will slow your units and damage them if they're off creep, but it will stun them in place if they're on creep. I believe that's what it is. Or you make Fungal much harder to use in the sense that it's like maybe a lob shot, so you've got time to avoid it. Like, I just think Fungal in my eyes, like, I get the need for that, but it's also like you have that Neural Parasite and you have Infested Terran. I don't know how Infested Terran doesn't always necessarily seem like the problem, but they also gives you free units, and when you've got energy based units it can keep spawning this. So this will be really interesting to see how this affects it. You're going to have less Infested Terran, but higher well, not higher DPS, but just more burst damage coming out of these. This change, Neural Parasite range decrease from 9 to 8, is fine. I would like to see it go down once more. Because of this change, remove the upgrade Infestors now come with it. If you're going to give the Infestor Neural Parasite, which is one of those moves that's either going to work and be far too powerful or not work, you need to make it so that the Infestor, if you're going to change this and not nerf Fungal, if you're going to change and nerf Neural Parasite, you need to make this range 7. You need to make it so that this is a like a power play, if you like, because you need those Infestors to be in very close proximity to take over a unit. If you're going to risk this move, they need to be in a risky position, they need to be vulnerable. It needs to be up to the player playing to really think about it. Excuse me. And right now, because you've got the Liberator reduction, you've got the Tempest reduction, this should be down by at least one more. I think if you're going to neuter this move, great. It should be very specific based. This is frustrating a lot of people at the moment because this is going to potentially have some could have some pretty big ramifications. The designed is, they're like, oh, you know, when a battle cruiser comes across you can stop it and all that, but then you could potentially do it more powerful against other build types and things, so I can't see this going through. And bear in mind all these changes they're talking about probably may or may not get through and other things get added. This one I hope doesn't go through. This one I hope stays, because that's great, but if you're going to put this in, you need to reduce this to 7. Lurker. Now this I kind of like. I think lurkers are pretty fun. So it's quicker to get lurkers, so to get the den. So it's not 86 seconds, now 57 seconds. That's a huge change. Much quicker. The lurker range is now decreased from 9 to 10, so it's not quite got the same range. There's a new upgrade, which then increases the lurker range to 10. So basically you're getting +1 from what the lurkers are currently, but now you're going to get +2. It's a late game upgrade because it requires Hive, quite expensive, and it requires 57 seconds. This will be fun, I think. It could be really, really powerful because it's already a really powerful unit. You don't see a huge amount because most people go for Broodlords at the moment, but I would like to see more lurkers there. Can be quite frustrating, but it's kind of cool. And then their other upgrade, which makes them faster, I believe it is also in 57. So everything here is 57 seconds to get stuff. But why it's not 60 or something, I don't know. Make everything 60 seconds. So yeah, I'm all for this. I'm kind of curious to see if this will change up some of the Zerg builds. Right, great, cool. Broodlord. Now, I didn't know about this, but basically the Broodlord leash range is designed to make the Broodlord actually function how it's meant to function for years, which is a range of 10. That's why this decreased from 12 to 9. Basically, they're saying that you could basically click on a unit and then move away, and you'd have a range of 13. Which was making it ridiculous and hard for Thors to hit it. The whole point of Thors is to like be able to shoot down, like pummel Broodlords. This stopped that from happening, so cool. Now it's fixed, I suppose. Nidus network. I'm not going to read all these numbers, but all you need to know is that the initial unload delay is increased, the load period is increased, the unload period is increased. What this means is Nidus Worm and Nidus network is more like how it used to be, whereas now there's an upgrade called Secreted Coating, which will now put how the Nidus Worm is now. It's getting reverted back pre-patch before it got patched last time. But when you get this upgrade, it will act like it is now, so it'll be much faster. But it's locked between Hive and it's a fairly long. Well, it's another 50. It's a 1 minute upgrade basically, and this makes a lot of sense. Nidus Worm networks are disgusting to watch, and basically making them very, very powerful throughout the entire game. So slowing that down is good in my eyes. And then also summon Nidus Worm ability cooldown increase from 0 to 14, which I believe this is so that you can't queue up Niduses. You have to wait until your Nidus is summoned before you, and then wait 14 seconds before you can do another one. Or you have to at least wait for 14 seconds before you can do another one. So that's good. That means that you're not having to. You'll see Terran and Protoss people bouncing back and forth like real fast. It's very micro intensive. So I'm glad to see that this is being changed. This is definitely something that needed a change, and this is probably the right change for it. So that's good. Protoss. Now, Protoss, I think, have some weird changes here that I don't personally agree with. They could do with some extra little bits, I think, to help them out a little bit. There's an issue here with beam attacks. Could deal more damage than intended. I don't know about this, but yeah, basically Void Ray Sentry and Oracle were doing too much damage or something with types of attack. No longer the case. So that's changed. First major change, Zealot. The charge upgrade no longer provides Zealots with +8 damage on impact, which, you know, has been the voice of controversy a little bit this year. Because you're charging into someone, doing 8 damage, and then doing another, I think you do 16 damage because it's 8 times 2 is when they swing their side blades. There's a new upgrade called Sundering Impact, and that grants Zealots the ability to deal the +8 damage on enemies. It's researched from requirement requires charge, so it requires you've got to get the Twilight Council, you've got to get charged, and then you've got to get this upgrade. It's 100 seconds. I think this is a complete waste of time, and I really, really think having this kind of upgrade, like, this doesn't sound like a useful upgrade to me. I think that they should have this, so you just reduce this to +4. Like, you don't need to pick an upgrade of this, because I just don't think it's. I can't. Maybe it'll get researched. I just don't see many people going for it. Like, maybe I'm not a Protoss player, so I honestly don't know, and maybe top players will go, okay, cool, yeah, I'll just get it, but I don't know if it's worth it just for +8 damage. So I think I'd rather just see this completely scrapped and then just reduce this to +4. The Zealot at the moment is kind of a key unit, so unless you're going to start buffing other things, and to be honest, the Adept, let's look at this. So health increased from 70 to 80, shield decreased to 60. So it's got more health, but less shields. And then they're going to add a new upgrade called Amplified Shielding to increase their shields to 80. So it'll be 80-80. The Adept needs maybe some other changes as well. Like you got to be careful because you don't want to make the unit too powerful. But it's not really seeing much play. It's like the Reaper, you don't really see it later on in the game. Not a lot anyway, not at the moment. Again, I just don't know if this is the right kind of upgrade, or like whether they needed an upgrade. I don't know how you change it, maybe fiddling with these numbers. Maybe doing 80-70 would have been fine. Just increase the health by 10. And then reduce the shields by, and leave the shields to 70. Don't know. I know that early aggression, they can be quite difficult to deal with that shield and health numbers, but I really don't know how this is going to play out. I just don't think this is the right thing that they need. 20 for 20 shield, maybe. Who knows? Observer. So this is the reduce. They've basically got reduced speed, and the upgrade doesn't upgrade them as much. I'm saying people are barely catching observers. I have absolutely no feeling on this whatsoever. I don't know how much this is going to affect high play. I don't know how much this is going to affect because I don't really. Observers are important to have as a Protoss player. You do need to be careful with them because at the end of the day, they're complete glass cannons. They're great. They're an invisible unit that sees other invisible units and scouts, and has the ability to go into range mode basically and see more of the map. Making them slower, I don't know. I honestly don't know. I don't see this as like a heavy nerf, but maybe it is. Not sure. This is fun. Fleet Beacon, Flux Veins, increases Void Ray's movement speed from 3.5 to 4.65. This is an upgrade that was originally in Wings of Liberty and got removed. It also increases the acceleration. Prismatic Alignment, which is the ability, will still slow the Void Ray down. And it's, again, 57 seconds. Why are they adding all these upgrades at 57 seconds? Should make it 60. Basically, the problem with Void Rays is they don't get used at all in high play. They're not particularly great. I don't know whether this will change it. It will definitely make an impact on people playing in the lower leagues because Mass Void Ray is a thing that you see all the time in the lower leagues. So I'm down for it. The Void Ray is a unit that definitely needs to have something given to it to make it actually have play, and I think being able to be a little bit quicker around the map and chase things down is a great idea. So I'm all for it. Tempest. This is the other change I was calling for. Anti-air range decreased from 15 to 14. Like I said earlier, with the Liberator, you're shrinking the ranges, so they have to get in closer. That means that the late game they have to engage. You're not having these like Tempest come in, fire, Stalkers can't really approach because of the Liberator range, and I think this is good. This is the kind of change. I know that this thing used to have like 17 or 18 range. Ridiculous what this range used to be. It's cool. It's ridiculous. And then they're giving it a health increase and reducing the shield a bit. This is to help with EMPs, so that they have more health overall and less shield. It just means that even when the shield goes down, they've still got plenty of HP to deal with from damage. So this I'm fine with. I like the Tempest as a unit. I love the design of it. It's pretty cool. So this stuff I like. I like this. It means this has to engage more. It's only got one range longer than a siege tank now, which is interesting. This has to engage more, but it can also tank more damage. Sounds good to me. Mothership, a unit that really should do more than it is. I mean, you can make this thing way too powerful, but I think it should hit harder, considering what it does. I mean, it does make all your units invisible, but Time Warp now affects air units, so I didn't know this, but it now affects air units, as well as ground and building, and the Time Warp delay reduces from 3.57 seconds to 1.79 seconds, so that means the bubble that comes up just comes up much quicker. Mothership should be a really, really cool unit, because you can only get one of them, but it just feels like such a waste of time a lot of the time. So I'm glad to see that they're doing something with it. Hopefully it'll get more use. Maybe this will be too powerful now that they might have to put this to like 2 seconds or something. But yeah, that is all the changes that Blizzard are currently implementing. You can go and fiddle with them. I want to see some more, like, now that we're in this kind of time, I want to see some big changes. I want to see it so that we're not seeing Zerg, you know, they are trying to neuter Zerg in certain ways, but I feel like things that I would address personally, do something with fungal growth, make it less potent, because at the moment it's just like, it's too good. I don't know the exact damage values, but I hate watching a big army get fungal. It sucks. The other thing is Viper. You've got Parasitic Bomb, which is really good. You've got Blinding Cloud, which shuts down most mech, and you've got Yoink Micro. I can't think what they're called, like the grab. All of those moves are just too good. Like, I think Blinding Cloud it just sucks when someone's got mech and you just see Blinding Cloud, Blinding Cloud, Blinding Cloud, and they're just dead. It's like, I get that you need something to combat mech, but like, I don't know how you change that. If anything, I was like, maybe you should make it so that they can't yoink massive units, which means it couldn't grab like a battle cruiser, a Thor, or a Colossus, but it can still grab things like tanks, Immortals, Archons, stuff like that. Carriers would be the one I couldn't, because like when you think about it, a carrier is huge versus a Viper. Viper's tiny, which sucks. Or you make Parasitic Bomb maybe not not damage the units attached to you and only damage the units around it. Like, those are the things I would, if you want to see like big changes, do something with those. You know, no, you don't want to smash Zerg into the ground so they're not playable and they're not, it's not fun for the Zerg players. But like, yeah, it's just not fun to watch. It's not fun to watch anymore because they have all these options and it's just like, it's not enjoyable. Like, I'd rather watch Terran versus Protoss or Protoss versus Protoss or Terran versus Terran. It's just more interesting matchups than watching Zerg versus Terran, which used to be like the best matchup. So I really want to see some bigger changes and some bigger nerfs to Zerg, some buffs to Protoss. If nothing else, they definitely need some buffs. And Terran, actually, there's a smoothing out process there, I think, that they've got buffed on, which I'm more than happy with. So, but that's going to do it for me today, guys. Thank you very much for watching this video. If you like, hit the like button. If you want to subscribe and see more content, do that. You got about 3 videos going up a week usually, so there's always content going up. And then if you want to get involved, obviously there's the comment section down below. Feel free to put your own sense on what you think about these changes in there. Always good to have a discussion. And then obviously follow us on Facebook and Twitter. Hoping to have more places in the future. But until next video, I'll see you then.